What is up, guys? In today's video, I'm going to be going over several tips to hopefully help you stop losing to third parties in Season 3. As always, if you guys do enjoy this video, find it helpful, informative, or interesting, remember to give it a like, subscribe if you would like to see more. Comment down below if you think third parties are more prevalent this season than past seasons, and if you guys would like to use my code in the shop when getting anything. It is EvolvedJake, just like my channel name is, and it is underneath the webcam at all times. So, third parties are always going to be a common problem in Fortnite or pretty much any Battle Royale. When you have a large free-for-all, essentially, which is what a Battle Royale is, there's going to be other people that hear fights and then want to get involved there and get the easy cleanup kills. This season, some changes that have made this, maybe more extreme or, something that's a bit harder to deal with is going to be, firstly, the audio changes. At the start of this season, the range at which you see indicators on visual audio was changed, and so you don't have as much visual audio range. And then the range you hear sounds at was also changed. So it's just your awareness is worse this season. And also with the shock rocks in the loot pool, this is a mobility item that allows you to travel really far, really quick, while also basically making no audio to players that you're about to push. So if you hear fights happening even in the distance, you can get over there really quick and really quietly and catch people off guard. So pretty much anytime you fight, you need to be on guard for potential third parties. Even during the course of the fight, this is something you need to think about and potentially look out for, because it's not like always people just wait until the fight is over to get involved. Sometimes they come in a bit early. And if you recognize this before it happens and don't, push as much as you would otherwise, or maybe play a bit differently to help protect yourself from the third party, you can kind of nip this problem in the bud. But in the past, you could mostly rely on audio and visual audio to kind of be your awareness in these situations. Like maybe you're fighting somebody you just got the kill, and then you hear somebody shockwave nade, and then okay, that person's coming. Or you hear them use the gloves from last season, that person is like coming, right? But now with the audio nerfs this season, in the mobility, you need to just be on the lookout more than you were in the past. After you get a kill, quickly kind of scan the area and just look and see, like, is there anybody pushing me immediately? Because just that brief little, look around can be an absolute game changer. The problem a lot of people make, and the reason why I think this is such a hot topic in the community, or something that people complain about a lot, is lots of players, as soon as they finish a fight, they're more concerned about looting than anything else. And this can make you a super easy target, because not only did you just finish fighting and potentially you need to heal, potentially you need to reload, but now you're looking at the ground as well, and then kind of evaluating of those items if there's anything that you actually want amongst it, instead of healing right away, instead of reloading right away, and instead of putting yourself in some sort of, position of advantage. Typically, when you get an elimination, that loot isn't going anywhere. That person's dead. Maybe somebody else comes up and tries to steal it, but for the most part, that loot is there. So tunnel visioning on it will usually do more harm than good. Once you get an elimination, worry about getting ready to deal with third parties. Worry about reloading your weapon, healing if you need to, and then you can loot after once all that is done. And this little bit of timing you take to actually rush the loot can lead to the third parties kind of exposing themselves and, getting out of there. Because if somebody heard a fight happening and they had eyes on it, they know that you're going to run for that loot pile right away, probably. So just delaying that a little bit and actually, making yourself ready to fight again can be a huge difference maker. One thing I do care about getting as fast as possible, if it is there, is going to be crowns. If I don't have a crown already and the enemy dropped one, I really want to pick that up. And this isn't even necessarily about just the emote, but the crown will show on the map at a very large range. People can open up the map when there's a crown on the ground and see, okay, somebody just fought right there. And the longer that is there, the more people are going to see it and the more people are going to be on their way. So if there is a crown, I'm close to it, obviously. Like if I killed someone 50 meters away, I'm not just going to shockwave on the crown right away. But if I'm close to them, maybe I finish them with a shotgun and there's a crown, that is one of the first things I want to pick up. Just take my pickaxe out, quickly grab that. That way it is on the map for as little time as possible, and hopefully alerts people for as little as possible. Also, when you are kind of finishing a fight or when you are looting, have in the back of your mind where the nearest piece of cover is, because just knowing where the nearest bush is, knowing where the nearest piece of cover is, can make you react just a little bit faster when the time does come. And shock rocks really enable the third parties, as I said, because people can just jump on you with no audio, but they are also the best counter to potentially getting third partied. With how shock rocks work, if you have 3 jumps and you want to have 3 jumps on your character at all times this season, I think, But if you have 3 jumps and use 3 jumps in quick succession, you go really high and really far. So if, you know, you're one shot and really weak, quickly getting out of there, shock rocks might be the only thing that allow you to do so, and also make it as difficult for the enemy to follow you, especially if they don't have shock rocks. But even in a lot of instances, you can kind of lose people because of how little noise you make when you use these. So oftentimes in these chaotic moments, especially if someone's just jumping on you with shock rocks, you don't have that much time to react. So like the bit of time you take to switch to your shockwave or switch to your overdrive nades, try to use the web shooters, that little bit of time can get you, you know, eliminated, especially if they're jumping directly on you. Usually by the time you realize they're there, it's too late. And the only thing that is going to get you out of that bad situation is going to be the shock rocks themselves. So this item is incredibly important this season. I want to have 3 charges on me as often as possible, but also having them like extra in your inventory is important too. So just, you know, try to stay topped off on these as often as you can throughout the course of the game. And if I do finish a fight, like let's say I finished fighting and I got the kill, but I used some of my jumps in that fight, one of the first things I want to do is just pop shock rocks again. That way I can dip out if needed. That small minuscule amount of time can be, you know, the only difference in you surviving or losing in a fight where like you were really weak. If you don't have rocks, you know, you probably will have to rely on some other form of mobility to try to reset the fight. But if you're not in fighting situation, that is your goal, is to reset the fight. And this is something that a lot of people struggle with in the Zero Build community, especially, is like resetting a fight versus just running away. There can be some fights where you can just run away and get out of there, and that's completely fine. But there's also going to be a lot of fights where an enemy is chasing you. And if you're only trying to run and not defending yourself in those situations, then you will eventually lose the game probably. It really just comes down to you're banking on them running out of mobility before you do, or them just getting tired of you and giving up. But all this time, you're not really defending yourself. You're blindly running into new areas where you might just run into more people, and you're using so much mobility that it's making the game harder for you to win in the long term. Even if you do get away, if you used all your mobility to get away, you know, your odds of winning that game are significantly worse now anyway. So when you are trying to get away or reset a fight, if the enemy is chasing you, you need to look for some sort of area to get to potentially turn the fight. And this can, you know, actually flip the situation on its head, because if you're somewhat weak or not in a great position to fight and you're getting chased by an enemy, they feel like they have the advantage. But a lot of players are just conditioned for people to just run and run and run. So if you get to a piece of cover and then look back and start beaming them, you can quickly just flip that fight on its head, and now you suddenly become the person that's in the position of advantage. And this kind of does 2 things for you. Maybe you get to a piece of cover, you get to a bush, you look back and you get damage on the enemy, and then now they want to run. And so you can either pursue them and get the elimination, or just, you know, maybe kill them with your spray weapon. But you can choose to either eliminate them or chase them if needed, kind of depending on how you feel about your health and how you feel about the situation. Or you can just heal now because you got that pressure away from you. And that's what a lot of people don't understand. They're in a terrible situation for fighting, and so they just run and run and run. But at a certain point, if you get damage back on the enemy, now they want to run too, and so you've bought yourself the ability to heal. So when you are running in these situations, don't just run to run. Run to look for some sort of piece of cover or some area where you can potentially turn the fight. The time to kill this season is really quick, so you can, you know, be very weak and still just melt somebody down with the Ranger pistol or the Burst AR or the Warforged, whatever you have. You can kill really quick this season. So oftentimes players chasing you are going to overexpose themselves, and that is where you can actually turn the fight. And that is basically the entire dynamic that happens. You are at a disadvantage. You try to get away and reset the fight. Then you maybe buy yourself time to heal, or you just outright eliminate the enemy. But either way, that's a better situation than you just running. And it's probably a better situation than you just, you know, getting eliminated in the initial engage that wasn't going your way. So oftentimes also this season, you know, we have the extraction points that will draw a lot of players into the area. There's always hot areas on the Fortnite map this season. I feel like the middle map area, the kind of extractor and that pool area and the extractors outside Sinister Strip and Battlewood, that entire mid-map area is incredibly populated. So anytime you're fighting in that area, be very prepared to deal with third parties. But also anytime you're fighting around these extraction areas, same thing. And a lot of people get kind of too tunnel visioned on the person they're fighting or the person who they think is trying to extract. And being too worried about that person often will leave you vulnerable to other people in the area. So if you are in these areas, try not to get too tunnel vision on one person, or if you see somebody extracting, try not to worry about that too much, because often it brings so many people that even if you do get an elimination or two, you just get chain third partied. And so getting out of those situations before it kind of becomes too much to deal with is going to be helpful and important, but also just having the peace of mind that like there's probably going to be a lot of people here. Do I want to fight this or do I not want to fight this? The same is true of the friendship bubbles. Whenever the friendship bubble anomaly happens, it feels like there's so many people clustered in an area that wouldn't happen naturally. And then when the bubble comes down, it just gets really chaotic and really just random as far as the fights go. So if there is a bunch of people clustered around a friendship bubble, you don't want to be inside of it. You don't want to be waiting for it to end. You want to be kind of maybe near the area and be able to capitalize on it yourself, but not put yourself in that bad situation. And I think that's really it. And that's all that matters when it comes to third parties. Don't tunnel vision on the loot too much. Don't tunnel vision on your eliminations too much and expect other players to just leave you be. You know, get yourself ready to fight before you worry about loot. Have mobility. And then when it comes to resetting the fight, look for an opportunity to actually reset and turn the fight rather than just running away, you know, in panic constantly. And I'm sure, you know, if you guys have played Fortnite for any length of time, you've seen those people that just run and, you know, sometimes they get away, but oftentimes they don't end up winning anyways because their game is so scuffed. But that is going to be it for this video. As always, if you guys did find this to be helpful, informative, or interesting, remember to give it a like, subscribe if you would like to see more, and I will see you guys in the next one. Thanks for watching.